Welcome to GM Tips. This is GM Rick here coming at you for another fine set of GM tips. Sorry if there's a little bit of movement. I'm sitting on the couch on this one. Little change of scenery. You can see the hoodie back there. Sorry about that. But this week's GM tips, I'm going to be looking at doing mythic campaigns. And I think they're an interesting type of campaign. And again, this is going to be mostly geared at fantasy based campaigns. So, Dungeon World, uh, Dungeons and Dragons, Pathfinder, um, 13th Age, and I guess you could put in Numenera into there as well as Open Legend into those as well if you're running it more in a fantasy setting. So, what we're looking at mythics. Mythics are an interesting concept. When you think of a mythic, you got to think of people like, Fard and Gray Mouse are out of the Michael Moorcock books. You would have to think of people like Hercules, Theseus, Perseus, Jason the Argonauts, Achilles. There's a lot of different types of heroes that fall into the mythic types. And what makes up a mythic? Well, mythics are harder to beat. They start out maybe as a normal human being in a sense, but at some point there's a shift that makes them, I won't say godlike, but close to godlike. They're just harder to defeat. They're much more challenging. They have powers and abilities that really lead them to go after and become something more than what they are currently. And what we're going to go over is how to incorporate a mythic transition into a campaign. What events take place that help your characters to become mythic? What type of advancement is there in mythic? Is it done with XP? Is it done with tiers? How is the approach? And what's one of my better ways of doing it? I think there's a lot of ways you can do it, but I'm going to focus on ones that I think are really effective. From there, you can take it and do anything you want really with it as a GM, but this is just kind of my spin on it. We're going to look at mythic realms. Where are mythic realms? What types of things constitute a mythic realm? And then we're going to look at mythic challenges and what type of mythic challenges exist that you can build into your campaign to help players to really grow and excel as mythic types. So first, I'm going to look at this. It's a really good book that is done by Paizo on mythic adventures. Now, some systems incorporate above level 20 as mythic. To me, I love this because mythics in Pathfinder can occur at first level if you choose them to. It all depends on when the mythic event takes place. And these mythic tiers can even enhance a 5th level character, a 6th level character, and make them much more of a challenge to creatures, dungeons, baddies, and a whole realm of assorted different things. So I like the idea that you can have mythic tiers at any level. And we're going to talk a little bit about those tiers and some of the things involved and why I think they really make sense and how to work with them. So first I'm going to go to page 10. Page 10 talks about creating a mythic character and what events are there that involve a mythic ascension. So when a mythic character starts out, most likely most of them don't even know they're mythically powered. They have no clue. Kind of like Perseus, Theseus, and Ajax, and some of the others that were of myth. In the beginning, they didn't know they were invincible or powerful. They just saw themselves as normal human beings. And an event occurred in their life that shot them to a mythic ascension. Now, these events they talk about and they give some suggestions are things like artifacts. So, finding an item, so like the golden fleece would be a mythic artifact out of mythological times, or the sword that Percy Jackson was given in the movie Percy Jackson by his father, Poseidon. That would be considered a mythic item. And so by using that item, basically what it does is it infuses the power into that hero or villain or dubious character. I mean, you can have any of the above as your mythics, but it infuses them. It could be an intelligent artifact, an intelligent item, a lost item of a lost age, maybe something that was used by the gods or left behind by them or by the Fey Elder Ones on a world that then affects the player character and transforms them in a certain way. The adventure path, the World Wound, adventures. That was one done by Paizo, and it allows you to go into a mythical type of setting. Now, what caused it to occur? I'm not going to give away everything, but let's just say there were parts of a powerful creature that were affecting the players in a good way, and it became one of the catalysts. Then there was another event occurred that supercharged the characters and turned them into mythic tiers and brought them to mythic tier 1. That said, you don't want to make attaining mythical tiers easy. You don't want to make it some low-key event. You really want it to be one of those standout moments that defines history in your campaign, in your realm. So make sure you really play it up. Don't go cheesy, but really make it what it is. Make the pomp of them making that transition amazing. That really leaves that memory. It could be fated. They were fated by their destiny or where they were going to be. So as in fated, they talk about that they were born under an auspicious sign. Maybe it was under a certain star. Maybe it was under a moon or a certain type of moon. Maybe it was under an eclipse. Something happened that basically fated those people to be the ones that were going to be the chosen ones. It could be a godling. So some portion, maybe they were descended of a god. You remember Zeus and Hera and Aphrodite and Odin. They all played around and made lots of little godlings with human mortals. So it could be that blood has been passed down generation after generation and nobody knew. And then all of a sudden, when the time was right, boom, it kicked it in. Granted, basically a representative of a powerful being comes along and grants you that ability. I had that happen in one of my campaigns where they went to the plane of Pharasma in Golarion, the Inner Sea, and one of her representatives basically unlocked the key to them becoming mythic and gave them that ability. Um, Passed on. So it was passed on by a relative, or maybe it was something that happened that it was passed along by the family somehow through a item or a legacy that was written that unlocks the keys. Maybe somebody reaches into their mind on a psychic realm and clicks the right switch that makes them mythic and makes them open to receptive to mystic powers. Maybe they came across a ley line, a certain crossing of ley lines that infused them with power that they didn't expect. Maybe they took on a spell battle, and in that spell battle, they were caught in a explosion of that spell's power that unlocked a key in their coding and their genetics that clicked on the switch. There are so many different ways that you can do this, but make sure it is a defining event. Don't make it something small. Don't make it something that's like, okay, you went and did this deed, you get to be mythic now. No, even if they defeat a mythical creature, do not automatically just flip that switch. Make it a ritual event that changes things and really transforms them around. That will give them the most memorable things to really think about. So, the event. Next is tiers, understanding mythical tiers. So, what are tiers? Tiers are different than levels. Tiers are not gained by experience points or getting experience points from killing mythical creatures. It is a tabulation of events. And I really love, again, that Paizo goes through and does that tabulation for you because it's really important as you look at it. How many events does it take to get you there? And it says here on the Mythic Trial table, and I love the Mythic Trial table, so take a look at that. It tells you how many trials to get you there. So the first, you notice there's a slash mark. That's your defining event that turns them that way and puts them into first tier. Then it says one trial at first to get them to second tier, two trials afterwards, then two trials, then three, then three, then four, then four, then five, then five. I suggest ratcheting a little bit. I think to go to second tier, make it two. and then 3 all the way to 5th tier, and then 4 all the way to like 8th tier, and then 5 to end it out. And that means how many trials? So defeating mythical monsters, doing trials that are considered by that god. So you remember, like Hercules, he had to go through a set of trials, and as he went through each trial, it proved him as more and more mythical. So that was something that was really defining. So it could be like a mythical deal, and then there's so much more that you can do. And so keep in mind, mythical trials can be whatever you make them. Don't make them easy. It could be the recovery of an item. It could be the recovery of something powerful. It could be lost knowledge or finding a lost civilization event. It could be finding something in a dead god that you didn't expect. Now, we know in the Inner Sea that the only dead gods are the ones they have on the list, and they have quite a few of them. So maybe you take some of those from that list and you put sites in the Inner Sea or in your world where these things occurred. And those are places of mythical power. So each one that's discovered unlocks another door. And so you do 2 or 3. Maybe they're guarded by mythical monsters. It would make sense. So monsters with mythic tiers, they're much harder to kill, and only a mythical can kill a mythical. So it really opens up some interesting things. And keep in mind, they even have them at the back of this book, the mythic template. Okay? You can adapt that to whatever system you like. All you have to do is know the mechanics of your system. I'm doing that right now on a module. I'm working on adapting a module, and I've done it before, from one system to another. But what you have to know is the mechanics and what needs to change. And in order to do that, you've got to adapt the mechanics. So before you do your mythic campaign, really do that. Set out those mechanics and get it going. So now, after that, so mythic trials, make them interesting and pomp. So the next thing would be advancement in the mythic tiers and using mythic tiers in the campaign. You have to decide what all is mythic. So maybe you do a map or a law or a kind of a key coded thing of where all the mythical things are. And don't make it easily accessible. Make your players have to dig for it. So as they go along the campaign, they have to dig and find that next key that unlocks another door to make them more powerful. And maybe the baddie at the end is a mythical, and the only way they can defeat them is being mythical. Whether it be mythical trickery, whether it be mythical arcane, whether it be mythical divine, whether it be mythical martial prowess, whether it be mythical protection, whatever it may be. So, but yeah. So here we go. So now let's take a look at some other things that they talked about, and this is going into the campaign setting. So they give a couple pieces of advice, and I like to go back here. So it talks about running a mythical game on 116. So the story structure on 119, and I really appreciate that. Not that this guides everything, but yeah, the contact of where it is, how limited or unlimited, like I talked about, are these different access to them. Some campaigns it's very accessible to hit mythic things. Other things it's not really. So again, it talks about the awakening in the journey. So you got to have an awakening point in the journey. And then how is life after you've finished the journey? You got to have cunning foes. Cunning foes that are going to be more cunning than the normal ones that you would encounter as a player character. Hard consequences. With incredible power comes incredible responsibility, and some people aren't that way. So, failure at a mythic level could be the destruction of a world, the destruction of a city, major conquests, a hillside blowing up, a town buried in stone, um, you know, basalt, rock salt. Um, you're going to have impressive settings. So maybe it's not all based on a world. Maybe you're going to the planes. Maybe you're going to the gods' dimensions and other places. So that's really those type of things. Sorry, I got the thing on the background with Star Trek for Bug. She likes to play to it, but she doesn't watch it. So I kind of do that. So, legendary creatures and NPCs. You want to have legendary contacts that are memorable for your players. And again, you may not have 600 of them. Maybe there are 4 of them in the whole thing. So you want to have that. Otherworldly influence. What gods and goddesses or imperials or other things are there that are going after your characters? Or influencing them or affecting them. Powerful enemies. Not just the mythical type, but the regulars that are working maybe with a mythical now to stop the players from their advancing. And then supernatural events. What type of events occur throughout the whole adventure that change the very fabric of the world? You think about it. Back in the early days, in the early histories of the world, powerful events, whoops, if I get this to say, powerful events happen that affect the players, that affect people. These powerful events can lead to great things or horrific consequences. You, the GM, have to figure out each part of that path. Now, most adventures are not set for that, but you can do that. You adjust CRs and levels in there. You especially want to do that. If you don't have challenge rating, you especially just want to change things out. Now, there are higher CRs. They go all the way up to 30, which most of them don't see in your regular books. For Pathfinder, 20 is the high end. So, same with D&D. Well, this allows you to go above. As you can see, just the supernatural, otherworldly things influencing these people and dragging them on. You can think about Tolkien's ring wraiths. Perfect example. The ring wraiths would be of mythical quality because of their survival and how long they've been there. So then what's your mythical storyline? What are you trying to get the players to accomplish that you regularly wouldn't? You could have a regular campaign dungeon. So you take an adventure path or a dungeon that you have created, and now you infuse it with a whole nother level of mythic possibilities. So you have the regular to take them up regular levels and experience. Then you have the mythic. And they're side by side. Maybe they offshoot each other. Maybe they're intertwined. Maybe they're not. So it all affects each other. And as your players go up, affect your story even in the non-mythical side of things to where it adjusts. You can't adjust one without the other. Otherwise, you're going to have imbalances and the lack of challenge. Perfect example. People say, well, you should play the adventure paths that Paizo provides through Rick unchanged. Well, here's my challenge. I got 7 players plus 2 NPCs. How am I going to do that? It's made for 4 characters. You can't do that. So I added an anti-paladin in there. I added a ghost or a ghoul. I gave them levels. I upped the bad guy in there at the part 3 of the Maiden Mother Crone. And I gave him a different slash and tint. And even though 4 died, we had so many that didn't. And it was so cool. You could tell the players were excited, and it was almost like a, and then let's calculate our items and where do we go next. The coolest part I love about the adventure is the difficulty in selling items. Because now they're limited with stuff. Some of the stuff they're going to want, some they don't. You can do the same type of thing. You can make it a more remote type of adventure, but you want to really adjust it to your players so that it is not underwhelming, but you don't want to have completely overwhelming. I'm not trying to TPK the party. I know some GMs like to do that. I know some parties like that and that risk. I'm not there for that. I killed off 3 the other day, 1 an NPC and 2 non-NPCs. It happens. It is the consequence of going into dangerous situations. One of my players put it really great when he said, you come into enough battles, sooner or later you're going to have casualties. Dead on. And it happens. And so that's why finding ways around winning a situation that don't always have to be combative is a good thing. Finding mythical ways of negotiating and dealing with things. You can do vigilante type of stuff at a mythical level. You can do intrigue stuff with the social combat and doing high-level jobs and stealing things at a mythic level. You can do things that rewrite the whole history of your world. And I suggest that if you do a printed path, have your own version of that. You are your own splinter realm in civilization or splinter universe off from that, where someone made a different possibility and it went a different way. So keep that in mind. I gave you a lot to chew on. I like Mythic. I really do. I think if it's done right and it's done properly, it can be beautiful. Will I add it into Reign of Winter? Yeah, I probably will. Because I like the idea that at some point the players can go that way, and they're much tougher to kill. And it means that they're going to reach their adventure, but it means there's going to be some serious challenges along the way. And you can limit the mythic powers. You don't have to give them carte blanche to every mythical path power there is. You can limit that. That's the nice thing. You can take the ones you want them to have available and say to them if they argue, no, that was not available in this particular iteration or realm of possibility. Yes, it's available in some, but not in this particular adventure. It isn't. So that way they know and they don't feel that. And in fact, I would write up a list of what is available to them. That way they know and can look at them, leave them some really interesting and fun ones, but you don't have to make them godlike either. All right, that's it. I keep it to 21 minutes. Love you guys. Keep tuning in and have you some mythical adventures. From Mini GM and me, have a great, great, great set of adventuring going forward.